welcome to Introduction to Open Tuning. There's a lot of videos out there about open tuning, and in this one I'm going to just try to connect all the dots, what they all have in common. First thing, I'd like to give a big shout out to any Guitar League members around the country that might be watching this video. And for you non-Guitar League members, I'm going to put their website up on the screen so you can check them out. It's a great organization, and they might just have a chapter near you. So there are many open tunings, but today we're going to deal with 4 of them. We're going to deal with the open D, open E, A, and G. The first thing that they all have in common is that when you strum all the strings, you get a chord. And in this case, you're going to get a major chord. So with the D tuning and E tuning, you're going to find the root note for that chord on the bottom string, the big fat string. On the G and A tuning that I'm going to show you today, you're going to find that root note on the 5th string, but we'll get back to that. So if you strum it and you fret a different fret, you're going to get a different chord. I have several guitars here today that are set in different tunings. So we're not going to spend a lot of time tuning guitars. I'll put the tunings for each one as we go up on the screen so you know where we are. We're not going to do a lot of play-along stuff anyway, so you can go back and retune, watch the video and retune, and do the same things that we're doing here. But what I'm trying to show you today is just, how much fun these tunings can be, just messing around with them and being creative, and you might even come up with some of your own new songs. There's many alternate tunings too, besides just open tunings. There's, you got major tunings, minor tunings, you got 6th tunings, which they use like maybe in slack key and on steel guitars. You got dad-gad tuning. I understand that Joni Mitchell might have used as many as 40 different type of tunings in her career. But we're not going to get that complicated. As I said, we're going to deal with just a couple of them today, and they're going to be open. So for instance, like if you were in standard tuning and you dropped your E string, big fat E string down the whole tone to D, you'd be in drop D tuning, which is a good tuning to have a drone note to go along when you're playing in the key of D. You can use it as a bass note. If you then took the high E string and dropped it down the whole tone, you'd be in double drop D tuning. That was a favorite of Neil Young's and Joni Mitchell's, going way back. For instance, the song Woodstock, recorded by Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young and written by Joni Mitchell. Neil Young played that in double drop D, so if you're trying to figure that out from the record, that's where he is. So then let's say that you took your B string and dropped it down the whole tone to A. Now you're in dad-gad tuning, which is a favorite tuning of a lot of finger pickers, and maybe even Jimmy Page, who knows. And then next, if you took your G string and you dropped it down a half a tone to F sharp, now that's the major third of the D scale. So you now have a D chord. So you can play music with open chords. You can play music by fretting them, or by covering all the strings, fretting individual notes, fretting all the strings, using a slide. We're going to go over those things. But the first thing we're going to do is I want to show you two finger shapes that we can do all the chords in the key of D. So let's say in D, and the chord scale in D is going to be D, E minor, F sharp minor, G major, A major, B minor, and C sharp diminished, and then back to D again. So we're going to show you two shapes, a minor shape and a major shape, that you can play all those chords. So for now, what we're going to do is we're going to pluck two strings so that you can hear it better. So we're going to take the top string, which is now a D, and the third string, which is now an F sharp. And we pluck those, okay? That represents the D major. Now we're going to fret, we're going to take our fingers and we're going to fret the F sharp on the first fret, and we're going to fret the D string on the second fret. Okay, that shape, we're going to call that shape, you see how it is? You can see it on your own fingers now. It's just hard to see with all my fingers in the way. That we're going to call the minor shape. So you've open shape, minor. You're going to take that minor and move it up 2 frets. Okay? Then you're going to come up 1 fret and you're going to change the shape, and we're going to call this the major shape. So you're going to take, I take my middle finger on the top string and my 4th finger, my ring finger, on the 3rd string, and that's the major shape. So this would be like G major. This would be A major, up 2 frets. Now we're going back to the minor shape, 2 frets. Now we're going up 2 more frets with the minor shape, and then 1 fret with the major shape. So we're back to D again. So now you know all the chords in D, and you can strum all the strings, but it's easier to hear it for this purposes if you're just plucking those 2 strings. But you can strum all the strings. So now you could play really any song in the key of D, and knowing those shapes now. Let's say, for instance, if we moved the major shape instead of the minor shape here in E, and we moved it to a major shape, what would that be? It's kind of like an E major, E minor, E major. So you could technically play any chord by changing those shapes on here. Okay, now I want to show you 2 other chords that you can use, like 2 fingers, or you can even throw a 3rd finger in there too. But these chords, 2-finger chords, are going to represent the 4 and 5 chord in the key of D, okay? So where we were before, if you remember, we're in that minor shape that we were when we were on the top string. We're going to take that top finger and drop it down 1 string. That's going to represent the 4th chord. And if we take that top finger and we drop it down 1 more, it's going to be the 5th chord. Now you can add more fingers to it if you want. That's for another lesson, but I basically wanted to show you those 2-finger chords that they're kind of suspended chords technically. But now you know the 1, 4, 5 chords fingering them. Okay, now let's pick up a slide. Okay, so a slide, what slide you use and what finger you use it on is really up to you. There's all kinds of slides. There's brass slides, copper slides, metal slides, wood slides, bottlenecks, all kinds of different things. And it's really a personal preference and a sound that you're trying to get. What I'm using here today is I'm using a copper one. It looks like a shotgun shell. and I'm using it on my pinky finger. Two things. One is this is very light. It's a very light slide. This guitar is not really set up perfectly for slide because it's got a low action and light strings. So if you had a big heavy brass slide, you might be just rattling around the frets, okay? So the reason I play it on my pinky finger is so that it also allows me to be able to pick notes at the same time. You know, like that. So, okay, so I want to show you some notes, not necessarily licks, but some notes that you can use to play. And you can play them with a slide or your finger. So just for demonstration purposes, we're going to talk about fingers right now. But you could do the same thing with a slide. And oh, by the way, one other quick thing about slides, and this is a whole other class. When you're playing with a slide, you want to play over the fret. So for instance, I'm going to show you the 1, 4, 5 chord with a slide. Okay, so put your slide on and then strum the open strings, and then you can slide from anywhere, let's say the 3rd fret up to the 5th fret. And you want to be over the fret, not behind it like when you use your fingers. And if you go too high or too low, the beauty of the slide is that you can come back. And if you wiggle it over the fret, you get like a vibrato sound. And if you really get good down the line, you get your own style of vibrato. It's cool. So anyway, open strings, 5th fret. That's the 4 chord of a blues progression. 1, 4. Now we're going to go up to the 7th fret. That's the 5 chord. You can do them with your fingers or a slide. So now technically, everything I've shown you so far works in D tuning and in E tuning. So technically you could play a 1-4-5 blues progression in E or D, okay? Now you could put a capo on, and you could play in any key depending on where you capoed if you remembered that 5 frets up from the capo is going to be your 4 chord, 7 frets up is going to be your 5 chord. So you could do that. Or you could just play the correct chord if you were in the key of E, and then you come up 5 frets and 7 frets. There you are in the key of E, or whatever key you're in. Okay? So now I want to show you just some notes that work, for instance, in the key of D here that we're tuned to. Okay, so we're going to take, and you can use a slide with this too, but we're going to take a big fat string. We're going to play it open. We're going to play the 3rd fret and the 5th fret. We're going to go to the next string down. We're going to play open, 3rd fret, 5th fret. Next string down, open, 3rd, 5th. We're going to skip a string, because if you remember, that was the major 3rd string, and it'll sound a little different. So we're going to skip down a string. So open, 3rd, 5th, open, 3rd, 5th. And you can do that with a slide too. So when you're playing in D blues, you can use any of those notes. And if you did use that F sharp string, you can do double stops where you play the 3rd string and the 2nd string at the same time. Okay, so you can use all of those notes. Now you can also come up on the 12th fret, and you can use any note on the 12th fret, because that's D again, and any note on the 10th fret. Okay, they'll fit into a blues progression, and you could do it with slide, and you can slide up, told you this wasn't perfect guitar for slide. These strings are too close to the frets, but you get the idea. Okay, so anything that I've shown you so far, you can use in E tuning. And we're going to pick up another guitar now, and we're going to transition into E tuning and show you how that all works. So hold on. Like this. Now we're in E tuning. So E tuning is E, B, E, G sharp, B, and E. A lot of B's and E's in there. Okay. In E tuning, you need to be a little more careful because you're actually tuning up. You're tuning some of the big strings up a tone. So you're going to put a lot of stress on the neck, so you want to make sure you have a guitar that can withstand that. And again, we talked about the other guitar not set up for slide. You want the action, preferably you could have the action be a little higher when you're playing slide, so that you're not rattling around on the frets. Okay, so the two finger chords that I showed you back in D, they work the same way in E. And the suspended chords that I showed you, same thing. Okay? Some of the notes that I showed you, the open, third, fifth, open, third, fifth, open, third, fifth, skipping a string, open, third, fifth, open, third, fifth. That all works. The things on the 12th fret, that all works. What I forgot to show you on D, fortunately works the same way on E, is the shuffle pattern you're going to use with the top string and the next string. So the 6th and 5th string, you can get a shuffle pattern like that. And if you go up to your 4 chord, which is the 5th fret, it works there too. Up 2 more frets. So in a 1-4-5 blues progression, you know, you got those chords that you can use like that, like a shuffle pattern. Okay? So also what we will, now I wanted to show you, I saw Joni Mitchell doing this, or heard that she did it, on a couple of songs that she wrote. She would take, in E tuning, she would play a traditional E chord. And you know, I'm not even sure what chord that is. Okay, but it sounds great. And then she would take it and she would bring it up 2 more frets in some of her songs. Well, when I was doing that, speaking of the Allman Brothers, E tuning was Duane Allman's favorite tuning. and he was a master slide player. But he would spend a lot of time on the 10th fret because D was his favorite tuning. Open E tuning was his favorite tuning on the guitar, but they played a lot of songs in D. So he spent a lot of time around the 10th fret because that's where D is. That kind of stuff that Dwayne Allman does. And you can play single string notes too. That's a whole other class on how to mute the strings. You can mute the strings when you're playing slide. You can mute them with your fingers in front of the slide, or you can mute them with your picking hand. That's a whole other class, so we're not going to get into that today. But back to notes that you can use. We were down here, remember we said on the 12th fret you could use anything on the 12th and 10th fret. Well, also what you can do with a slide is you can fret notes in front of the slide. Sonny Landreth has really made a career out of doing that. So there's just a little something to show you there. You can use all those notes in D or E. Also, if you were flattened, remember that the G string now is a G sharp. It's the third of the chord, remember, from the last lesson? Well, if you were to actually flatten that note just a half a tone, you get a minor chord. Just a little something there. Okay, so where were we, Melissa? Okay, so now the 1, 4, 5 on a slide in E is the same way as a D. So on your 5th fret and your 7th fret is your open is 1, 4, 5. And those suspended chords work too. So that's E. Tuning. And the G tuning we're going to do today is a little different than what you might find on a dobro or a resonator type guitar. The tuning that we're going to use today is it's going to be the fat strings of D, the 5th strings of G, then a D, then a G, then a B, then a D. The dobro guys might be more used to having it be G, B, D, G, B, D. And that gives you more of a country sound. But we're going for more of a bluesy sound here today. So, and this tuning can be really pretty too if you master some finger picking. We have a member of the Guitar League who has mastered this tuning, finger picking with nylon strings, and he's probably got 130 different songs that he does, and it's just really beautiful in this tuning. So there's a lot you can do with this besides just play 1, 4, 5 blues chords. The tuning that we're using, the D, G, D, G, B, D tuning, was one that Ry Cooder liked to use a lot. And he actually showed Keith Richards that tuning, and it kind of changed Keith Richards' life, actually, because there's so many songs that he wrote after in that tuning. But Keith took it one step further. and he would eliminate the top string altogether, and he'd only have 5 strings on his guitar, and we're going to do a little of that in a bit here. But the other beauty of this tuning is that it's kind of like a banjo, that a lot of the banjo chords will work in this tuning. But everything that we showed you, that I showed you on the E and the D tuning, is going to work in this tuning, except it's all going to be down 1 string. So instead of the top string being your root note, it's going to be the 5th string, and that's why Keith took that 6th string off, because it just gets in his way. He wants to get to that root note. So those chords that we learned, the 2 finger chords, the suspended chords, they work the same way. And the notes that we did with the open, 3rd, 5th, open, 3rd, 5th, open, 3rd, 5th, skip a string, open, 3rd, 5th, that works the same way. All the notes on the 12th fret and the 10th fret, everything works the same. And it'll work that way in the key of A too. We're not going to bother with tuning another guitar to A, but everything that you do in this tuning in G, you can be done in the key of open A tuning. Okay. So, as I said, Keith took this whole thing to another level, and he removed the 6th string off of his guitar, and he has 5 strings. So we just have a guitar here with 5 strings on it, and kind of get a feel for what that sounds like. There's a lot of stone stuff coming out of that. Those suspended chords, stone stuff, and he does another little suspended chord. It's a lot of what he does there. And the other neat thing is we talked about the shuffle, where you find it on the E and D tuning. On the G and A tuning, it's the root's going to be on the 5th string. So it's going to be on the 4th and 5th string. So like that, and then you come up again to the 5th fret, or the 7th fret. So that's another thing that works good for Keith, because that way he can really get into hammering around on that without hitting that low D string and kind of screwing things up. So he likes those 5 strings like that. And so obviously slide works the same way on here. It's actually cool because it's hard to hit a wrong note in this tuning. I mentioned all those notes up on the 10th fret, 12th fret. They work the same here too. So, I hope this has been helpful to you. And if you like this video, I wish you'd go ahead and hit the like button and maybe subscribe. And I want to thank you all for watching, and hope that you're all safe out there right now in troubled times, as they say. So we're going to try try to play out in, let's go to G. So if you're all tuned up to G, let's play out a little bit. So you're going to use the 4 chord, which is the 5th fret, and the 5 chord, which is the 7th fret, and then just open. And any of the notes underneath that fret you can play when you're over that chord. So let's see what we got.